I'm here with Grutle of Enslaved to talk about their 30th anniversary of their debut album coming out April 20th on Record Store Day. Wow, 30 years. Have you realized how much time has gone by?
I try not to think about it that much actually, because it's pretty scary when you think back. We recorded the album in I think around Easter 1993, so it's like 31 years ago. And like in 1993, it was still it was less than 10 years ago since Maiden released Power Slave, and Perfect Strangers came out, and all these it puts things in perspective. I mean, it means we've been around for quite a while, and we were like really young when we recorded the album, and suddenly now we are like in our 50s and late 40s, and yeah, so I'd rather not dwell too much on it, you know. But yeah, I was still really proud of that album, and the impact it had on the scene, and it still has, I guess, since we keep on re-releasing this album all over again, and there's from time to time requests to perform the album in its entirety on festivals and stuff like that. So it's still a highly appreciated album, and it's a lot to take in actually. Still, and I think actually the time has treated those recordings fairly well. Of course, it kind of sort of aligns with other releases from the same period, but still it has some timeless schwung to the whole thing, perhaps more than other Enslaved recordings from the 90s, and yeah.
Do you remember the recording process of how it was for you guys going into the studio for the very first time to put this album together?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was. I think this was our fourth studio recording, and the first one was obviously just a studio next door, well, actually on the same floor as a rehearsal place. It was an 8-track studio. The second one was a little bit more professional, but still kind of well, let's say an experienced engineer, and he has not been working with any metal bands before. But it was still a little bit step up, and that was for the demo tape, Yggdrasil. And then we went on to a third studio to record the mini album, the mini LP, Hold On a Slum, which was a huge step up from the demo studio. And finally, when we recorded our debut album in Grieg Studios in Bergen with Putten, it was pretty huge for us. We didn't know Putten. I mean, I'm funny to think of it today. I mean, he was like 44 years back then. I think he was in 93, which is like 7 years younger than I am today. So he was still it was a relatively young man back then, and it's funny to think of when we meet. We're still friends with Putten. We meet him every once in a while, and yeah, we're still in touch somehow, and good friends nowadays. And it's funny to think that more than 30 years have passed. But anyway, it was great coming up to Grieghallen, because I mean it was in the city. We were like country boys, you know, grew up in like small communities, and coming to Bergen well, Putten had already been working with bands like Full Funeral, Amputation, also Mayhem and Darkthrone, to mention a few. So he was kind of experienced when it came to extreme metal. perhaps the most experienced engineer producer when it came to extreme metal in Norway at the time. So that was obviously huge for us. So yeah, it was definitely a step out of both out of the comfort zone and into a completely new territory, and recording a full-length album was also pretty big for us. I mean, we were all still teenagers at the time we all the recordings. So yeah, young men.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you feel like the album has stood the test of time. So let me ask you this: how often do you listen to your own music? And if so, if you do listen to your own music, how often do you go back to this debut record to reminisce a little bit about the past?
To be honest, I really don't listen that much to our own recordings. I do in the beginning to learn the lyrics, you know, to memorize. And I go back and listen to the albums when we are playing songs from those albums, and we are for Vikingligr Veldi we have done it like a couple of times, the whole album on you know, like festivals. So actually, I have gone back to that one, and for the first time I did that. That was probably in the summer of '69. No, yeah, summer of was it 17? I think it was the first time we performed it in its entirety. So then I had to go back and really dig into because I had, for most of the songs I had no idea what we were playing. So I had to kind of transcribe the whole album and write down the what do you call it? What the fuck do you call it? Not the notes, but the, oh god, I'm so stupid. What do you call it? Tablators.
Oh,
Tablators, of course. And then I had to give that to Eva so he could start to memorize or try to dig up again the guitar parts. So it all started there like 7 years ago. And I don't think I had been listening to that album for a long time. A very long time, maybe 10 years or something like that. But it was fun. And as I told you, it has something to it that the other albums from the same time are lacking. And it is obviously really colored by the things we were listening to it when we wrote and arranged the songs for the album. And it was, of course, not intentional. It's never intentional, and we kind of forgot about it. But we were listening a lot to especially old German music, like both krautrock and German electronica, such as Klaus Schulze, Tangerine Dream, Kraftwerk, and the likes. And it has got this really, you know, those long songs, long stretches. It's kind of like we somehow created a repetitive yet very hypnotic passages, I think. So in that sense, it's like really, the songs are really seamless and timeless and very open, kind of big actually. And I have to admit, I was pretty impressed actually when I listened to those old songs back in 2017 when we were supposed to perform the whole thing. And I really enjoyed it. I really, all of us did, and we and the new members too. Like this is really cool. This is fantastic. So we really had a good time on those rehearsals, and so it was rediscovering. Well, for me personally, it was rediscovering a lost treasure actually, and makes me maybe even prouder of the album than I've ever been actually. So that was pretty cool.
you know, the debut album is always an important record because that's how you kind of announce yourself to the world. So when you look back at this album, how much does this record impacted the longevity in the career that Enslaved has had?
it's a strange thing because back then it was supposed to be released in 1993, but everybody knows that the label owner Euronymous, he died.
Yeah, I
And
was actually in Norway, by the way. I was
yeah.
I was at Inferno this past week, and I did the tour bus with Anders from Cadaver. He takes you on the
Oh
tour bus,
yeah,
and he actually mentioned you guys that your debut album had been signed with Euronymous' label. So yeah, that was really
yeah.
interesting. I didn't know that beforehand.
Oh, okay. So it was supposed to be released in '93, but obviously it was postponed, and so the distribution company for this, like, Science Productions, was an Oslo-based label called Voices of Wonder, and Voices of Wonder, they released the remaining recordings done for Øystein's Euronymous label. So it was us, and it was Sai from Japan, and some other, I think, a couple of more recordings, I think. And but they came out in the spring of '94, and there were no distribution, there were no promotion. So the Vikingligr Veldi kind of, it was just pressed on CD, one edition, one press, and it came out and disappeared somehow. We had already signed with a new label, Osmos Productions, and we were already working on the songs from the upcoming album Frost, that was released later the same year in November, I think. So that was prior to the first European tour we did, or the first proper tour at all, that took place in the winter, February 1995. So the main focus on that one was the Frost songs, and we didn't play much material from the first album. So it was we kind of forgot about the whole thing, and apart from one song, all the songs are like more than 10 minutes long. So if you have a 45-minute set as a support act, it's hard to put in like two songs.
It's half your set.
Making up like 50% of the set. So it was kind of shelved, strangely enough, because I think it's a good album, but and everybody seemed to forget all about it, and it almost passed into legend. So but I guess, like, nostalgia brought it up again, and around the time of 2015, 2016, festivals were talking about it, and they wanted us to perform it. So when the Beyond the Gates festival approached us, and yeah, they were persuading us to to blow the dust of those old songs, and we said, yeah, let's give it a try, and let's see where it takes us. And it was great. It was fantastic. It was really cool to perform those songs again. It still is, actually. So yeah, we're also performing it this year. We're performing it in May on a festival in Belgium. So yeah, that's gonna be cool to dig into that again.
Yeah, it's a way for you to breathe some new life into an album that at the time of the release kind of became forgotten, but obviously it has a cult following and fans really enjoy it. So when you have an opportunity like this to re-release it, do you try to leave it as is, or is this an opportunity to right some of the wrongs and maybe change a few things here and there in order to give it the proper light?
I mean, we did release it finally on vinyl, on Vinyl Records. That's Ivar's label, and Ivar and some other guys. So we finally released it some years back on vinyl, and it has been re-released a couple of times in different editions, different colors. So but it was always about having the original layout, artwork, and rather than change it, we just added things. And on this record store day release, we will like add some more stories, some more artwork, different color version. So it's a really nice piece of art that has been put together. So it's like, I guess most of the buyers will already have an edition from before. So it is more. It's more a question of a collector's item, really, than it's not about releasing new music. Record store day isn't about that. It's like a day for the collectors and the music nerds. And I'm pretty sure I'll find some record store day releases myself. I haven't looked at the list yet, but I will do. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting day.
When I look at Enslaved from that beginning to where you guys are now, there's obviously been a huge progression and growth. You guys are not a band that rests on your laurels. You continue to evolve, you continue to change, pushing the envelope. Do you feel like there's still room for you guys to even push that envelope even further, to continue to evolve? Is there any doors that you guys haven't opened yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, sure there is. I mean, we hate the idea of stagnation, and the main ethos has always been pretty simple, really. It has always been trying to create your own contemporary favorite music, and all of us are really interested in music. We are interested in digging into new territories, not necessarily new music or new styles, but I mean, there's so much undiscovered from in the music history for the past 50, 60 years, both like music that is available, and both more obscure music, and a lot of music from the 70s that we haven't discovered yet. So that has probably been our main influence in the past 20 years, and we're still digging into that. While of course being open-minded, that's a crucial thing, because I mean, if I think bands, there are a couple of good bands that have been releasing the same album all over again, but I mean, I don't think we have the set of skills to do that ourselves. I mean, and the world already, they had a Motörhead, they still have an AC/DC. You don't need any more bands to do that. So the rest of us has to concentrate on trying to create something else, something new, some interesting for yourselves. I mean, if you do like compromising, and if the goal is to make a product to please somebody else, it becomes rigid, it becomes fake. You have to do this entirely out of your own interest to create something great for yourself, and hopefully people will embrace it. That has been the whole pretty simple philosophy, and I think that's the only reason that we are still alive as a band, because we really don't want to look back. We just want to look ahead and try to do something.
It's not always an easy.
Us.
It's not always an easy process to do what you're saying right now, because a lot of times the fan bases are not willing to adapt to the changes that the band is offering, and you guys have offered a lot of changes from record to record. I mean, I don't think there's two albums alike in the discography of Enslaved. So when you see that, does that mean that you guys did also a good job educating your fans of what kind of band you are, and if you're going to jump on board, enjoy the roller coaster ride?
It's about. I mean, we put a challenge on ourselves, and obviously we also put the challenge on some of our fans. But I mean, I think a lot of fans expect us to do something different from the previous album. I think some of the fans would actually be really disappointed if we did exactly the same as we did the 17 times before that, So they are sort of expecting the unexpected. And of course, I mean, we have lost some people on our journey. I mean, there's probably people that only listens to the first album or the three first albums, and it will always be like that. I mean, I follow a lot of bands. I'm not a huge fan of all their albums. It doesn't necessarily mean that.
Mhm.
But I mean, if they like some of our albums, that's absolutely fine for me. You know, I mean, it's not for everyone. Not each album. Not I doubt there's a Enslaved fan in the world that is a diehard fan of all the albums. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not. so I don't. People are. I
I
think that's the way it should be. I mean, that's music. That's okay. Sometimes you hit or you miss, and you move on. You know,
I agree with you
it's okay.
100%. I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday asking me why I wanted to go see a certain band a couple of weeks from now, considering how much I hate their latest album. And my answer was, well, I like all the other ones before that one. So just because I don't like one album, it doesn't mean that I suddenly dislike the band completely.
Exactly. You know, I totally agree.
I think that's key. How much of the evolution of the band is driven by your own personal evolution as a person? Because the person you are today is definitely not the person you were 30 years ago.
Well, he's still in there sometimes.
The younger self.
The younger self, yeah, he comes pops out and say hi and do stupid shit when I'm drunk and stuff like that. He still does. That's kind of inevitable. But yeah, I think, yeah, obviously, because and I mean, we have always been open-minded towards music, and we have never been stuck in like genres, neither as a band or as like or as music fans. So, and we obviously have had a lot of periods and wormholes, and that goes for the whole band, and it goes for all the individuals in the band. For instance, I had like what almost 2 years period when I couldn't listen to anything but the Beatles, and I didn't buy anything but Beatles albums. And obviously, it's a really good band. It wasn't my favorite band in that period. It's not necessarily my favorite band right now. But anyway, and Eva had the same thing with Pink Floyd, and just to mention a few. And it's always been like that. And you bring something. It's not a conscious move, but I mean, I can hear like certain I almost get embarrassed by like for parts on some albums. It was like, oh, this is so totally a guy that has been listening to Beatles and only Beatles for a couple of months. And but I mean, it may not be that evident for other people. So it's fine. But I mean, it's cool to discover music and get stuck for a while. Maybe 2 years is a little overdone, but
It's a little bit too much.
it's a little bit too much. But I admit that. But it's kind of I think it's an entertaining, and you, although you know it or not, you are bringing those influences with you, and which opens up the horizon for your band, and that's interesting. And that's how we make different sounding records. I think it's as simple as that. The music you make, it has obviously always been colored by the music you have listened to. And if you listen to a broad variety of music, and if that changes, your sound will change for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
I always feel like bands' records should really be a snapshot of where the band is at that moment in time. And that allows the band to change from record to record, because as you're traveling through your path, every snapshot that you take is not going to be the same as the one you took before. And then it comes down to the fans to understand what that snapshot means, or to not connect, or connect a little bit deeper. But I think you still have to appreciate the journey and the imagery that comes with that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I mean, you may not be the biggest fan of all the albums as you mentioned, it's still a crucial part of the history.
And speaking of history, I have one last question to ask you. Like I said, I was at Inferno last week. I was talking to Jan Martin about the festival, and he mentioned to me that you guys were one of the first bands that he booked for the first Inferno that they did. Do you feel like it would be appropriate to go full circle and maybe next year at Inferno playing this album from start to finish?
Vikingligr Veldi. Well, hard to say. Obviously, someone has to approach us with the idea. But yeah, we were. As far as I remember, the first Inferno was in 2001.
Yeah, he said there was only 2 days, not 4, like the way it is now.
Yeah, it was 2. Yeah, and we were headlining one of the days, and I think Borknagar was headlining the other day.
Yeah, that's exactly what he told me. That they headlined day 1 and you guys headlined day 2.
Yeah, okay, day 2. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's correct. Yeah, 2001. I think I remember some of it.
It feels like a lifetime ago, I'm sure.
Oh, it's only 23 years ago. It's nothing. I don't remember the set list, but I guess that was Mardrøm. We had just released Mardrøm in 2000, so it was probably Bluehemn and Mardrøm songs, and it was with Dirge Rep on drums and Roy Kronheim on guitars. So it was probably a messy concert, I guess.
He had great memories of it. He spoke very highly of you guys, and he spoke very highly of those early days of Inferno. So regardless of how messy it was, you definitely left a lasting impact on how that festival got started.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
You're definitely part of their history.
I haven't been there for a while. We haven't been playing there for a while. So the last time I was there is probably might have been like 10 years ago or something.
Oh, you guys are due. You are due. I'll put in a good word. I would love to see you guys there in 2025 playing this record from start to end. I think it would be such a great celebration. Dimmu Borgir this year was there celebrating their 30-year anniversary, and they did a very special performance. So I think you guys are due to have a similar performance, because when we think about Norway, when we think about metal, Enslaved is always a name that's on top of that list. So I think it's appropriate.
Well, you have to talk to them.
I'll send them an email today.
Okay. That's great.
I'll put in my 2 cents, and I'll put in a good word, because like I said, I think it's time for Enslaved to be celebrated for everything you guys have given music and everything you guys have given Norway. And this record is a huge part of that. And so it's I hope the celebration goes beyond Record Store Day. That's kind of where I'm trying to go with this.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time today. This was an absolute blast and pleasure. And keeping my fingers crossed, I see you there. I've seen you in Toronto. I saw you guys on the tour with Insomnium. Yeah, it was a great tour, and I saw you guys in Toronto performing. But I would love to see you in your homeland doing a show celebrating this record. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll see you around. Take care.
Take care. See you around, man. Bye-bye.